Squiers bug me a bit. The number one tip to upgrade any Squier. Most of those I've played were junk. Telling you, the necks are teeny. They're teeny. Necks are teeny. They're small. Small. What's happening? Pat here, 416 SBA Studios. I got a Squier neck. It's true. This here is an Affinity Squier neck. So let's talk about Squiers versus Squiers versus Squiers versus Squiers. A couple comments in the last video raised some good points. You can take a Squier and soup it up and it becomes a sick guitar. Throw different pickups in it. Sometimes Squier pickups are fine. If you just need a plain stratty sound, just rock what's in it. The pots don't feel as nice. They're not as smooth. You're not going to be able to do swells and stuff on them. And they do look cheap inside. You could Google it yourself, but I can show you. Squiers look cheap inside. Some people say the pot sizes don't matter. These are just as good, and I don't know. I've used them. I've owned maybe 50 strats, maybe more. A lot of Squiers, Japan. I've tried to gig with stock Squiers and it never really works out. There's always something. So that could be a bit of quality control. But now, my biggest point in the last video was sizes. This neck is teeny around here. But different models start to get bigger. So a classic vibe will get you closer to that feel. They have a lot of lacquer on the necks. Some people prefer the light lacquered necks. This neck is an amazing quality neck, but for me or anyone with a bigger hand, you can't play a D minor here. This is just too little. You can even look. I go from the nut to nut. That fits inside it. You can even see this neck, nut to nut, completely fits inside this. You can see the neck on both sides of that. I line it up right there. We go. So I mean, it's smaller. So yeah, anyone tells you you can soup up a Squier and make it into a road-worthy, gig-worthy machine, it's absolutely true. A USA Strat, it does have a feel. A vintage Strat does have a feel. Back to Squier versus Squier versus Squier. If you can find any Squier made in Japan, it's going to be sick. The necks are sick. Everything. Those are cool. Gold label Squiers often have slightly better components, better feel, better finishes. So you spot just this regular black logo with the Affinity, that's about as cheap as you get. You see a gold logo Squier, those are worth a little bit more money and they're a little nicer. You see late 80s, early 90s Korean Squier, it's going to feel way nicer. There are Mexico Squiers that have a big Fender, little Squier. And most of those I've played were junk. And you got to shim the necks. You know, even on American Strats, sometimes you just got to shim the neck. Depends how you play. All the different opinions come from everyone pushes harder. Everyone wants to feel something different on the neck. Everyone has a different sized hand. I have played a couple classic vibe Squiers that I really liked. I believe the Squier Standard has a regular size body and neck, but the feel, meh, it just compared to even a Mexican, it's not there. But Mexican finish and Squier finish to me feels pretty much the same. A USA finish has a little nicer feel to it, a little thinner, a little more, I don't know. The satin finish is more kind of vintage style, or the Highway 1 series. To me, that's as close as you're going to get to like a vintage style without spending a ton at the custom shop. You can get your hands on a Highway 1 Fender Tele or Stratocaster, I say yes. That is my favorite series. There's just the feel and the vibe. I prefer 6-point trem. Just Hendrix was down with a 6-point trem. I'm down with a 6-point trem. I've had problems with 2-point trems. I've seen them break. They're great. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just my preference. Honestly, it's a look thing. I think a 6-point trem with the 6 screws looks cooler than the 2-point thingy. I don't know, the 2-point thingy reminds me of like Newark Clapton or some shit. 6 is like Hendrix or the David Gilmour Pompeii Strat. Yeah. So what would I do if I only had $500? Don't know. Is unless you're a beginner, you don't really want to mess with these ones too much unless you really set them up or modify them. If you like modifying guitars, yeah, all day. If you don't want to mess with anything and you want to stick around that mid-grade budget, then maybe you want to get the classic vibe Squier. But if you get the classic vibe Squier, you're not that far off from the used Mexican. But again, Player Series Mexican Strats also have a pretty small neck compared to the USA Series. USA neck, one tip to upgrade any Squier. It's very simple. You just need like a distortion pedal, something old. Perfect. So you take some old ass sandpaper, and you get like a distortion pedal of some sort. That's a foot switch. Looks like a brick of dirty cheese. Yeah, you just wrap the sandpaper around your foot switch, and you just like Squiers bug me a bit. The name Squier bugs me a bit. Fender's branding bugs me a bit. Why didn't you just keep these cheap guitars? Why didn't you make good guitars just with the Fender branding? Why are you confusing people with so many freaking models? They shouldn't have done it. But when I was younger, Squier was the worst possible thing you could have on a headstock. Just that name in the back of your head on the guitar, just gross. But I mean, look at the pedal, the foot switch. Foot switch. There's still remnants there. We got to keep going. But I mean, that's damn close to being a 6 strat. All of a sudden, would that take 30 seconds? No big deal. And we just slap something on it. Perfect. Like it never happened. Think of how much better this guitar is now. Way better. Sick. You want it.